And hello again. Nice to have your company on Gantry TV. It's Tuesday evening. It's absolutely lashing outside. So we thought we'd let the weather match the mood outside for the latest round of the Motorsport.ie LMP2 Cup Round 7, the penultimate round at an absolutely rain-soaked Road Atlanta track. My name is Kevin Galvin, back once again in the commentary booth, but this time I have a friend. The famous Kevin is back. Evan Dalton joins me. Evan, missed you last week. Glad to have you back.
Glad to be back, Kevin, and glad to have the duo returning once again. We've both actually rocked up in this place at the same time for once, which is nice. The weather isn't nice though; it's absolutely pouring it down, and this could be a very interesting evening of racing.
Yeah, it's a difficult enough track as it is here. Anybody who's driven it before knows how tricky it is. A lot of very aggressive, obviously, corners, a lot of very aggressive bumps on the road, and it's a difficult one. The LMP2s are already proving tricky. We had absolute carnage last week at Daytona, so the lads thought, you know what? Let's make this easy and absolutely soak the track for these drivers.
Yes, coming into the business end of the season, the admins have decided that we're going to make things very difficult for our championship contenders. It might be a low turnout tonight, but we have all top 10 in the championship here ready to race, so it should be a very interesting one. Interestingly enough, Dylan McClements, who is top of the order, the championship leader, it's really a free horse race between himself, Jason Smith, and Ronan Doherty. Of course, drop rounds and stuff still to come into play, so it's still an open book for now, but Dylan will be looking to get the job almost done come next hour and a half.
Yeah, Dylan, I suppose, could potentially become the youngest ever winner of the RTA series, of an RTA series, if he can do it tonight. Obviously, last week, disappointing one for Jason Smith. His phone proved to be his undoing last week. He got a notification from Red Bull, I think he said. The first time Red Bull has ever contrived to make a driver slower. Spun out the formation lap, then he got caught up in issues in race one and ended up losing serious ground to Dylan McClements. Now, he finished ahead of McClements by only one place in both race two and race three. Ronan Doherty taking race two. Jason Smith ended up winning race three with the two McClements brothers second and third. So, despite the fact that he finished ahead of Dylan in two out of the three races, he still the first obviously race he ended up losing so much ground to him. So now you look at the distance here, and it's over 50 points, which is, with only two races to go. I know you said it's a three-horse race technically, Evan, but it's kind of a three-horse race in the same way that when Leicester won the Premier League, technically Manchester United and Chelsea could have also won that league.
Yeah, it's a free horse race with two donkeys and a horse, really. Dylan has a nice, comfortable lead, 426 points ahead of Jason Smith, 373. Then it's Ronan Doherty on 360 ahead of Rory O'Shea on 331. Brandon McCaughton then with his consistency in fifth, 298. Ahead of Sean McClements in sixth, 270. He officially confirmed last week that championship gone. He's going to help Dylan. He's going to play the wingman. Peter McCann then in seventh on 265. Logan Hoy and Kevin Joyce tied on points in two with 248. And then Jordan Kelly down in 10th on 236. Dylan, despite being top of the championship, Kevin, and this is interesting enough because he did almost the same thing last season, hasn't won a race yet.
Yeah, it's incredible consistency. And we talked to him last week, and it's amazing how when all the other lads go to pot and they're crashing out in corner one and they're punting each other off and they're getting caught up in incidents, or, in Jason's case, before even turn one, getting caught up in incidents. And yet, the youngest driver on the grid seems to have the most amount of maturity. He seems to be the cool, calm, collected one on the grid. He is driving, and I know this is cliche to say sometimes when they talk about young drivers, but he is driving like somebody who, I mean, he does have a lot of experience in RTA, of course, but he's driving like somebody who's 20, 30 years experience, not somebody who has 2 or 3 years experience. So it's really, really impressive. Dylan, obviously, as you said earlier, Sean giving him a bit of a wingman last week, particularly allowing his brother to go through and take second place in the race. That's the big talking point this week, because despite the fact that Dylan promised his brother that he would give him a curly whirly for helping him out in the final race, he ended up beating him himself. So I wonder, will Sean start to, think about his position in the championship? Does he really want to help his brother? Because, I mean, if you're going to help a lad out and then he's going to eat your curly whirly, that's just absolute disrespect.
Yeah, really not good. Really not good to see sort of the argument in the McClemens camp. It's certainly not good for team unity in the team DDR lineup, and you might see a bit of a schism there. Is this a little bit of is this sort of Hamilton Alonso 2007 esque, where come the end of the season they all started arguing? Well, only time will tell. But qualifying underway now, still absolutely soaking wet. We're looking at Dylan McClemens heading down towards the final couple of chicanes. Last season did pretty much this very similar season to this. 13 podiums, 1 win. I don't have the stats on this season, but it's been something similar. Has been very good in qualifying, though. So pole position, not off the cards for tonight.
No, absolutely not. And this is a track that obviously there are, as you just saw there, very heavy braking point going into the chicane of turn 10, 10A, 10B. That's a great opportunity to overtake. Perhaps into turn 1, if you can dive down the inside and keep that aero, that's a good spot to overtake. But other than that, this is a course that really relies on very high aero, very high speed. It's kind of single line corners, very difficult to overtake here. So really your only chance to overtake is going into that chicane at the bottom of the straight. So if you can maintain a gap here, it is possible to put your car down the inside of that chicane, make it very difficult. It isn't really one of these tracks where you see an awful lot of overtaking. It's kind of a typical IMSA track, isn't it, that way?
Yeah, very, very much is. It really tests the driver, tests the machinery as well. I think my favourite moment around this circuit came last year, sorry, in Petit Le Mans when Renger van der Zander's front lights turned off with about 6 minutes to go. That's the sort of track this is. It might not be known for its wheel-to-wheel racing, but it certainly is known for its historical moments. Another one that involves prototype machinery was in another Petit Le Mans race when it was quite similar conditions to this actually. At the time, the quickest cars, what now are GTPs, didn't have wet tires, whereas the GT3s did. So the GT3s were quicker than the prototypes, which was very interesting. We don't have to worry about that tonight, thankfully. Jason Smith, the quickest of the bunch so far, then that is a 120.2, about 6 tenths quicker, or 5.5 tenths quicker than Dylan McClemens. Kevin Joyce goes to third, Jamal Gandor in fourth. And there's a quick spin round for Kevin Joyce. You can just see how easy it is to make a mistake. There is big puddles on the apexes of these corners.
Yeah, it's very, very, very difficult. And a lot of talk in iRacing recently about how wet the track can get before you actually need to switch to the wet tires, how long it takes for those wet tires to be effective. But still, it's not much good being a couple of tenths faster on dry tires if you're spinning out every 2 seconds. Now, I'd love to see, don't know if this is something that we can see what compound these guys are on, because obviously it is very wet out there. I'd imagine they are on the wet tires. But with this standing water, yeah, they're all on wets. With this standing water, particularly on the inside of these curbs, these puddles tend to form between the tarmac and the outside of these curbs, and that makes it very, very difficult because your natural inclination is you want to hit the inside of the curb, you want to be as tight to the corner as possible, but in these conditions, you almost kind of want to slightly miss the apex, which is what we're seeing here from Dylan. From Jason. He's actually slightly missing the apex, not cutting it too tight, which is actually keeping the grip underneath the car consistent by avoiding that standing water.
Yeah, interesting you mentioned the tyre compounds, Kevin. Obviously, we're not going to have to deal with much of a crossover period here, but would you have much experience in managing wet tyres on a dry track?
Good question, because I have a small bit of experience managing tyres on a wet track. Yeah, just a little bit. What Evan is alluding to very subtly is a endurance race that I did last week where we had dry and wet conditions. So I said I'd try the wet tires and tried the wet tires after 50 minutes, and I'm going to say after 2 hours I was still on the wet tires. when everybody else in the track hadn't even switched to wets in the first place. So at one point, I think the commentators had mentioned that I was about 5 seconds off the pace in wet tires, but I honestly think that was just a skill issue. I don't actually think that was down to the tires. I think it's just the fact that I'm not very good at driving.
Yeah, the commentators weren't too nice about it. We'd be a much kinder team, much nicer team. We'd be
Yeah,
complimentary of the
I
strategic
don't
approach.
know if that's necessarily true, but
No, me neither. But we'll keep moving. Dylan
uh,
McClement's second in qualifying improves. Brandon McCaughton has improved to third, but still Jason Smith, the outright pace setter. And I tell you what, he's a pace setter by quite some margin. 0.6 of a second ahead of Dylan McClements, which is quite something. Ronan Doherty in fourth, Sean McClements fifth, David Prunty in sixth position. Dermot Toomey now just pips that and goes to sixth. Kevin Joyce just pips that and goes to sixth. Peter McCann now improves and goes to fifth. So that's Sean McClements dumped down to sixth. Peter was having some problems in practice, having some problems in qualifying, evidently, and runs to
not the
ride from
only
turn
one
one. Oh
mentioned
my
now.
goodness me. Not the sort of thing you want to see while heading through a blind corner.
No, there's going to be a lot of what would I say, brown trouser moments, I think, over the course of this race. I definitely think if anybody's racing in VR, they're going to be massively spooked. You can even see there, like, looking at that number one car, that is Ronan Doherty, who's currently in second place. Just the way the back, look at the way the back is kind of whipping around on him. He's really at the limit of adhesion, particularly in those rear tires. The fronts are gripping and they're going in, but then the backs aren't holding that grip. So it's how you manage the power to get the car through there as quickly as possible. Like, it's a bit like, it's almost like powered bobsleighing, isn't it? Like, it's kind of like there's so little grip out there that you're kind of sliding around and you're trying to find the right line. As Ronan, I think he's going to call time on that lap. So we still have about half the qualifying section left. Dylan McClement's back on top of the timing table with a 1:18.8. That is super quick, Evan.
It is. This isn't relevant at all to the race, but bobsleigh, one of the most underrated sports in the world. Absolutely amazing to watch. Dylan McClement's quickest of the bunch. First man in the 18s, and when it was looking like Jason Smith was going to be the pace setter, he has absolutely put it up there. All but Ken Doyle with a time on the board. So Ken yet to get one in, heading through the final corner now. This is going to be a time on the board, I think, for Ken Doyle. We'll see where it goes. No, it won't. It's invalid. So that's that for Ken Doyle. Not been a bad season for Ken, in all honesty. Currently sits 21st in the standings, which you might be thinking is a little bit down the order, but we have 37 on the list. Ken currently sitting on 93 points, so not a bad season at all for him. This is Kevin Joyce you're looking at as well, who took his second podium of the season last time out in Daytona in the opening race. Of course, after his opening race win in Silverstone, which I'm pretty sure he's still buzzing from. So Kevin on a very strong run of form. We'll be looking to keep that up in the tricky conditions tonight.
Yeah, and you're talking there about people like Ken, about people like Kevin. Obviously, we were talking that the top 10 are all here, but we only have 15 on the grid, which means that, if you've 10 of 10, then you've only 5 of the rest of the 20 odd that are left on the grid, which means that those who do decide to turn up and show up and race today are going to make some serious points. So this obviously, with everybody in the top 10 here, it's not going to decide the fate of the championship, somebody not being here, somebody being here. But for those guys who are further down the standings, this presents a massive opportunity for them to, just by finishing 3 races, potentially jump 10, 11, 12 places on their rivals. Because when, you're talking about having 97 points, as that is a classic example of what we're expecting to see, and that is one very mangled Dallara P217. That's the number 7 car. Am I right in saying that? The
No,
number
I think it
7
was
car?
Dermot
No,
Toomey in the 2.
that's Dermot Toomey in the 2 car. So yeah, that's we'll talk about that in a bit, because I do want to come back to that, especially ahead of Daytona this week and those kind of accidents. But yeah, it is, Evan, a massive opportunity for those guys further down the standings who do decide to show up and race today to actually make huge ground personally in the championship and potentially go 5-10 places higher than they were when they came into this evening.
Yeah, and just a mark of respect to those guys who did turn up and aren't fighting for anything, because at this stage in the season, if you're down in 20-something in the standing, there's not much motivation to race other than the fact that you want to race. In conditions like this, in cars like these, around a track like this, there's not much positives going for it. So fair play to the likes of Ken Doyle, Philip and those guys for turning up and giving us a half decent size grid. David Brunty breaks into the top 10 then in qualifying, just behind Logan Hoy. Well, quite a bit behind Logan Hoy, actually. It was at 9th. Peter McCann improves ahead of Sean McClements once again. So McCann up to 5th position. Of course, remember the VRA racing team. VRA have done a few Daytonas, I'm sure. If you're wondering why we keep mentioning Daytona despite it being last week, that is, of course, the actual official iRacing 24 Hours of Daytona. That is this weekend, I want to say, Kevin.
Yep, this weekend, just coming up this weekend. And am I not right in saying the actual Daytona is the following weekend?
Yeah, I think so.
So we're really going into Daytona week. I think this weekend. IRL is the Roar, and
Yes.
then we have the actual Daytona 24. Last weekend, obviously, it already had quite a bit of coverage because we had the last race of the IMSA, like the esports IMSA series, in which Max Verstappen's team, Team Redline, got a invitational, and Max, unfortunately, his checkered history when it comes to special events continued, missing a breaking point and taking out one of the leaders in the Cadillac. But
it was nothing new for those folks
yeah,
at home.
well, I definitely don't think it was intentional for Max in any way, shape, or form. But he definitely has a checkered history with Daytona, particularly, and Spa as well. I think, if memory serves correctly.
And Le Mans.
And Le Mans, yeah. Well, let's not talk about the Le Mans Virtual. That's a whole other kettle of fish. But yeah, it's coming up, and it was just interesting coming back to the Dear Mitumi accident. Oh, as Peter McCann, should I say? I need to stop calling Peter Chris. Peter McCann goes around again. Peter is spinning around more often than Kylie Minogue, I think, at the moment.
Haha.
So it's a tough one for him tonight. We were planning on maybe going on board with him, but then we realized we probably wouldn't get an actual clean lap with Peter McCann tonight. So he is down there in P, not on our list. Oh, there he is, P6. So yeah, it's really a case of surviving. Anyway, I've gone off topic. What I was going to talk about was Dear Mitumi's accident earlier on, where you see him just dip his left rear tire onto the line. The lines here are an absolute no-go. And in my own race I did last week, where I spent nearly all of it on wet tires and I should have been on dry tires, I managed not to crash, which was a great result. And I also, by the way, finished 5th as a 1.5k driver in a 2.9k split.
Seven cars.
Yeah, but no, there was more. There was 13 cars actually, just 7 of them
Was there?
finished. But
I
there was
was
13 cars.
Apologize,
Yeah,
Kevin.
yeah,
That's
yeah. No,
very unneeded.
I
Very
finished.
unneeded.
I finished ahead of 2 on track, and then the rest rage quit. But I'm still counting it.
Okay.
I mean, if somebody finishes 4th in an F1 race because 2 people crash out, you don't say they finished 6th, you say they finished 4th. So I'm taking it. And what I was going to say was that a lot of the P1s in our split ended up getting in that opening turn of Daytona, that big wide kind of arcing turn. They were taking that wide line, which is absolutely fine in the dry. But when it turns to wet, those lines that you see, particularly the white painted lines in the ground, turn to absolute ice. So the minute you dip a tire on them, you lose all traction. So what was happening was they were dipping their right rear tire on the outside line to the right, and as they were sweeping around, the car just swap ends. And that's exactly what happened with the Dearmid. Just he was that turn here and turn one, kind of a big arcing turn. You want to try and get as wide as possible to sweep through the corner. But if you go too wide, you dip a tire on the line. You're absolutely goosed. Logan Hoy coming out here now. He is in P9 at the moment. No, it's not Logan Hoy. Sorry, he's running an actual proper livery. Who's that running the number 8 car? That is Sean McClements. Yeah, Sean McClements. Interested to talk about Sean's feelings with the Curly Whirly. Brother Dylan is top of the timing standings, but it's relationships have ended for less. Like I think that could honestly be, like, I'm just saying, I'm not saying that I hope Sean does this, but I'm just saying, like, he may decide to scupper his brother's chances in the last 2 races here. He might be out for vendetta, because you don't just promise a man to take away his Curly Whirly. I mean, that's just
it's a
shocking
bit wrong.
behavior.
It's a bit wrong. Also, while we're speaking of of the McClements family, and while we are speaking of far-fetched claims, I beat Dylan McClements in a race at the weekend. That's all I say. He disconnected, and I lapped him by 4 laps, but we won't say anything. He is on pole for the round 7 of the Motorsport.ie LMP2 Cup here at Road Atlanta. Jason Smith in second, with Ronan Doherty in third. Brandon McCaughan in fourth, Sean McClemens in fifth, Peter McCann there in sixth, Logan Hoy in seventh, Kevin Joyce in eighth, had a Dermot Toomey in ninth, and Jamal Gandor starts 10th. And it's David Prunty, Tony Stack, Simon Hutchings, Ken Doyle, and Philip Upson. Penultimate round of the season, pole position by 0.3 of a second. That's not bad going from young Dylan McClements.
Yeah, 3/10 is absolutely massive in the context of this league. Oftentimes you see the top 10s separated by just half a second. So to be leading by 3/10, I mean, Jason Smith was leading Sean by, what was it, 7 or 6/10 there at some halfway through the qualifying session. And then Dylan came in with another storming lap. Dylan has to be careful here now because Jason is a very rapid driver, but his racecraft is, let's just say, Jason's not afraid to get his elbows out from time to time.
Not afraid to get his elbows out, but that should make for an interesting race here towards turn 1.
Well, I don't know if these conditions are conducive to getting your elbows out necessarily, so it'll be interesting to see. I really hope they haven't been set up as a standing start. Yeah, full formation up. Okay, that makes sense. Because I was going to say, I really hope they're not set up for a standing start. That would be a disaster. I feel like Ronan, our director, had his heart in his mouth for half a second there when he thought he may have set up the server with a standing start. Oh, okay. Well,
Rob
whoever
Parks,
sets up the. Is Rob still set up server? I thought Rob had taken that off.
It's mostly Jordan because Rob forgets literally every week, but I think this one was Rob Parks because I saw them discussing in the stewards chat. Please don't fire me, Rob.
Well, whoever it was, I imagine they had their heart in their mouth for half a second. It's like the rolling starts in Spa where you think they start, at the start finish line, and then they don't start at the start finish line, but they start halfway down the hill, and you get caught out, and you're thinking that why are they going so slow, and then you realize that it's actually because they're still on formation up. So Dylan McClemon's leading us down the hill. Ronan Doherty in behind him straight away, even though Ronan is obviously starting P3, but he's making it very clear that he's going to be protecting young Dylan McClements over the course of these 3 races. Because really, in Jason Smith's case,
Why does he do this every week?
Ronan.
He does this every week on the formation laps. It costs him horrendously come race starts.
Because he's always on the back foot when the race actually goes to start.
Yeah, because he's in second when he should be in third, or if he's in first when he should be in second.
It's just a dominance thing, maybe. I don't know. Jason's gone way out ahead anyway, so Jason has completely it's just interesting. Now they're all desperately trying to get some heat into those Michelin tires as well.
That is true.
And that's trying it as well. It's a very, very difficult one. Interested to hear what people's thoughts are over the course of this evening. Remember, you can subscribe to us at Gantry TV. If you're watching us on YouTube already, thank you very much for joining us. Do hit that like button. Do subscribe to us, and also have a bit of a chat. Have a chat with us. We love to hear what people have to say over the course of the race. So very interested to hear that. Jordan already confirming in chat that Rob set the server up. So he is here. He has set the server up. You're right, Evan. Thankfully, it's a rolling start. And we're about to go racing here at Road Atlanta in the rain for the penultimate round of the Motorsports.ie RTA LMP2 Cup.
Yes, heading through the final corner now. Dylan McClements on the inside line is going to look to get the jump, and he has. Foot to the floor, and now we go racing here at Road Atlanta. Brilliant start from Jason Smith, immediately on it and trying to get the move done in towards turn number 1. Through the spray, you can see 2 emerge. Jason Smith and Dylan McClements. Smith on the inside. McClements gets the shoulder, almost running onto the curb. Thankfully avoiding it. That could have been absolutely disastrous. Jason Smith in the race lead. McClements a little bit all over the road here, but Ronan Doherty's not got the best of getaways, so McClements should be able to hold on. It's all mostly clean through the pack somehow, and it seems like we're going to get through the S's and in towards turn number 5 safely.
Yeah, incredible driving for the 2 of them to go too wide through T1, but for everybody else in the grid not to have an accident. It's incredible how perfectly dry conditions in Daytona, everybody wrecks. Stick them on horrendous conditions in Road Atlanta, everyone behaves themselves. It's just incredible. But a superb start from all of the grid there to stay right in the fight from 1 down to 15. But it looks like Jason Smith really got the jump there, Evan, when the lights went out.
Yeah, really good reactions and using his race start experience there to get the jump. Didn't win heat number 1 last week, won heat number 3, of course. Don't think he hasn't won a heat number 1 since Spa-Francorchamps in towards the chicane. It seems a little bit drier in this part of the track, but I know Peter McCann was saying before the session started that traffic through this sector is almost blind because of that spray. We're running for the final corner, then in towards turn number 1 once again. Still Smith who's leading and starting to pull a little bit of a gap. And there's someone round in the background. That's Kevin Joyce, who's at a moment heading for the final corner. And there's a bigger one. That's Ken Doyle, who's gone off into the wall. Very similar to what we saw in qualifying. And that is significant damage for Doyle. He'll play no further part.
Yeah, I think if you looked at Ken Doyle and Kevin Joyce's accident,
Peter's
they're
gone as well.
very, very, very similar. Keegan McCann also having an issue. Ken's back at the pits. Peter's spun himself back around. He's really struggling in that opening turn. Is the previously sponsored Earn Tiles number 11 car. You can see why Earn Tiles dropped him with the difficulties having in the track this evening. But yeah, I'd be surprised if Kevin Joyce's and Ken Doyle's accidents were almost carbon copies of each other. Obviously, Kevin managed to right himself through the grass and Ken just swapped ends too much. But I'd say very, very similar instance as we go back and look at the replay. So there's Ken coming down through the final turn. Yeah, just losing it immediately and the car pirouetting. And really, you're just a passenger at that point. You have absolutely no way of stopping that once the back starts to swap with the front.
Yeah, once you lose the grip, there's nothing you can do. You're gone. You've got to just brace for impact and hope that you don't get too much damage. Peter needs a bit of grout to stick to the track. I tell you what, by the way, Kevin Joyce, that's a cracking save in the background to just avoid the wall. And there is Peter McCann. Oh, great reactions from Logan Hoy, I think that is, heading up the hill. But yeah, poor mistake from Peter. It's disappointing. Is this Dylan McClements? That's Dylan McClements heading for the first corner. He's made a similar mistake to Peter McCann, I imagine. Has to cut across turn number 3 down to 6th.
That's a big, big talking point in the terms of this championship. Our championship leader, of course, could potentially win the championship this evening, but he's not going to do it if he has an accident like that. Oh, interesting. Elevation change on the track. I think, like, literally, if you go back and look at it again, can we have another look at that maybe, Ronan? It would be great to see that that moment, because it looked like it was where the track kind of moved, like, if you get what I mean, where kind of the banking sort of race, we're going through the start finish straight here now. So it'll be the next corner, T1, of course, where we just saw Peter McCann spin out. And I'm just really interested to see, is it where the elevation changes, the car starts to pitch, and then you see, like, it's kind of where the track starts to go uphill is where he loses it. I wonder, is there standing water there, or is there something that Dylan caught on the inside? But anyway, as it stands, he's back down to P6, and for Jason Smith, a great opportunity, Evan.
Yeah, it has to be a puddle or something along the lines of that, because the car just lost grip in a very unnatural way. Like, you can see Jason took a fairly similar line through the first corner, had no real issues. It seems like you got to take the wide line for this one to work. But very disappointing for Dylan McClements, finished on the podium in all 3 races last week in Daytona. So he'll be very disappointed with that. Here's Tony Stack in the Alpine livery. Is this similar through the first corner? Yep, that is almost identical to Peter McCann's, and round goes. Was that Dermot Toomey who avoided him? Excellent stuff indeed. The collision avoidance here tonight, but turn number 1 proving very, very difficult.
Yeah, really tricky, and as you say, 2 superb collision avoidances there from, I think we said Logan Hoy the first time, and then Dermot Toomey the second time. Superb work for both of them. It's so difficult as well, because when you see somebody spinning and you've committed to your line in the dry, you have a chance to lift and you can kind of, I suppose, swerve your way around them. But in the wet, because the car is so sensitive to weight and weight changes, you change the center of gravity, all of a sudden the whole aero of the car is thrown out. It's so difficult to avoid spins without you causing a spin for yourself. So really good work from both of those. Ronan Darty up to second place. He's had really good, strong running last week in Daytona, and the number 1 car. Surprised not to see him challenging for this championship overall, as we see this fantastic blimp cam.
He
I
is.
love this track. This is superb stuff altogether from our camera crew here at Road Atlanta. More of that, please. As Ronan goes down through the S's. It's a really tricky set of corners up over the curbing. And yeah, I love seeing drivers run in the wet. I think it's something that we don't see enough, and guys don't get enough wet weather practice. And you're starting to see now who it is maybe practices more in the wet and who is more used to running only in the dry.
Yeah, which is interesting because Dylan McClemens, I think in the past has been considered one of the better wet weather drivers on this grid. Certainly, I've considered him one of the best wet weather drivers on this grid. Ronan Doherty and Jordan Kelly, obviously up there as well. Jason Smith hasn't done as much wet weather running, because of course he was missing for quite a few seasons when we had a lot of wet weather running. But look, I mean, he's leading this race, so you can't really say he's not good in the wet. Ronan Doherty is slowly catching him, though. Ronan only 13 points behind Jason coming into this evening. And of course, Ronan Doherty with, I believe, a 0 drop round. Of course, we'll have the drop rounds fully calculated for next week, as confusing as they are. Just look at that. Try to spot Jason Smith. It's a high-speed game of Where's Wally?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah, and it's really difficult because I suppose not so much for these guys. They're very, very good drivers, and a lot of them have in real life as well a lot of wet weather experience. They're used to these conditions. But as a lower rated driver personally, it's so hard to not get fixated on the car in front of you because you don't really have any other references. Like all you see is the spray in front of you and the occasional red light blinking. You've no idea because there's so much spray of where your apexes are, where the corners are, where you need to turn in, where your braking markers are. It's all being clouded. So you tend to almost get hyper focalized on the guy in front of you, which means that you're always reacting to what he does, which means you're always braking a little bit too late. You're always turning a little bit too late. You have to kind of almost drive by feel and by repetition. And that's very hard. Like when you're driving an LMP2 car, you saw Dylan there, how he spun out like taking pretty much almost the exact same line as Jason. So you've no sense of trust in what the car is going to do, or where the limit is, or where these puddles can appear, especially when you can't see anything. So it is really, really difficult driving. You can see Kevin just pulling out slightly of David Prunty's spray, just trying to give himself some what's the word I'm looking for? Visibility to get into that corner to make sure he hits his braking marker, but then obviously you're sacrificing your entry as well. So it's just such tricky conditions to be racing in. Kevin, again, we talked about it a little bit last week with Ronan, but just having a superb season is Kevin, and very lucky to still be in this race. Well, lucky, but also skilled to have held on to that. But really fantastic third place last week. Us still in the top 10 ahead of a driver like Jordan Kelly. I think it's a real testament to the improvement that Kevin has shown in this series particularly, and how comfortable he feels and how much he enjoys these LMP2 cars. As we see Dylan and Sean swap once again. Sean McClemens leaving his brother through once again.
Yeah, Kevin has been absolutely superb. And even before he took that race win, or before he took the podiums, he was picking up 5th, 4th, 6th here and there. He really has been fabulous. And it has been an absolutely excellent season by Kevin Joyce. Here's Logan Hoy, right in the slipstream of Peter McCann. This traditionally ends well as they're heading down towards turn number 10A and 10B. It's McCann on the inside, Hoy on the outside. Who's going to break the later of the two? It looks like it's going to be Peter McCann, and Peter is going to have this one. Logan will have to back off a little bit heading through this final corner, otherwise he will lose a lot of aerodynamical grip. So McCann just keeping the position.
Yeah, it's what I was talking about there as Logan goes.
This time. Heading on to the last lap of the race then. Sorry there, Kevin, I think...
sorry, Evan, you slightly...
has worked.
Yeah, he slightly cut out on me, but I just wanted to jump in there just to say that's a great example of what I meant earlier when I say that even though you would consider that corner a great overtaking opportunity, Peter just showed there exactly why it actually really isn't, unless you're carrying massive overspeed going down the hill. It makes it very difficult because once that person holds the inside line, you really have to stay with them through the corner, and there's so little grip on the outside of the corner, particularly now with the marble effect that iRacing has introduced. Add to that the rain, makes it very difficult to have enough grip to maintain the maneuver through the second part of the chicane. So Logan having to pull out of that one, trying to go again next time round. That's a as Jason Smith crossed the
That's a
line.
great
I was
ending,
like,
Kevin.
yeah, I was so distracted by Jason going semi sideways. I didn't realize he was actually celebrating his win. So Jason Smith, great start for him, Evan, as he crossed the line.
Yeah, brilliant win for Jason Smith. Ronan Doherty comes home in second, and Brandon McCaughan will take the final podium position in third. Dylan McClements in fourth, ahead of his brother Sean in fifth. Jamal Gandor, by the way, unbelievable drive to come home in sixth. Dermot Toomey in seventh. Kevin Joyce in eighth. David Prunty in ninth, ahead of Peter McCann in 10th position. Logan Hoy finishes in 11th, then just outside the top 10, but Philip Upson coming home in 12th. Very interesting opening 10 minutes. Very interesting race. All the drivers just trying to survive. There wasn't much battling, and they were just trying to get to the end of that one. Just to run you through the results one more time, then it is Jason Smith who took the win after an impressive move in towards the first corner. His championship rival, Ronan Doherty, in second. Brandon McCaughan then in third, out of Dylan McClements in fourth. Sean McClements in fifth, out of Jamal Gandor in sixth. Jamal using his over 30 years of or almost 30 years of sim racing experience to bring that one home in the wet conditions. Dermot Toomey in seventh, out of Kevin Joyce in eighth, David Prunty in ninth, and Peter McCann in 10th. And it was Logan Hoy, Philip Upson, Simon Hutchings, Tony Sack, and Ken Doyle.
Yeah, sorry, apologies for not even realizing the race was over there. I was just so taken by Jason Smith going sideways. I thought he was having a real moment, but superb work from Jason Smith. That's going to claw back some of that gap we've seen in the championship, of course, for him. Is it enough? I'm not sure, with Dylan still finishing fourth, once again getting helped by his brother Sean. Great result in P3, by the way, for Ballycastle's Brandon McCaughan. Obviously, really does a lot of real life racing as well, does Brandon, but superb work for him. And as you said, Jamal Gandor, really disappointing week last week for him. Found himself facing the wrong way almost as much as he found himself facing the right way in Daytona. But the Simsa Esports driver, obviously founder of that as well, doing a superb job to stay out of trouble really once again. And like that's what it just keeps coming back to that, this championship. Like, doesn't matter how quick you are, but it's no good being quick if you're sitting in the pits with half your car, your front end bouncing down T5. So it just, it's about keeping it consistent. It's about, as Dylan is showing, still hasn't run away from the championship, but still comfortably leading this championship. He's a great advertisement for exactly what it takes to actually win a championship.
Ronan is doing this formation lap nonsense again. Oh, there we go. Now Jason has retaken the lead. One thing I've noticed about Jason Smith here, Kevin, and this might be a little bit of a pointless thing to notice, he loves to drive right up behind the safety car.
Yeah,
Is that going to cost him one day?
I don't know. I presume at some point, if iRacing introduces solid lap cars you can't go through, Jason's going to find himself in a whole pile of trouble at some point. But
see, I didn't know you could drive through them. That makes this a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, no, you could drive through them. Yeah, unfortunately, it's one of those things in iRacing. The damage collision is not turned on for those. Jason's just
Jason
decided.
started the race already.
Jason's going on an adventure.
This can't help his tires. He has to keep slowing down.
This is what I imagine. I'm not sure if Jason's just kind of taking the mickey here. Is he on his phone again? Is he just driving and getting distracted and then having to slow down? I don't know what he's doing. Jason confuses me sometimes. I'm very, very honest, but very confusing driver, I have to say, at times. But yeah, very, very happy with that opening stint. I'm interested though, Evan, very quickly as we head down towards the back straight. What do you make of the open, those kind of peepholes for the tires in the LMP2? I have to say, I'm not a big fan of seeing the open tires on the frame. It looks a bit weird to me.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird. I assume you mean sort of them not having wheel covers.
Yeah. They're just you see the tires.
But see, I also hate wheel covers, so it's kind of the best of a bad situation. But anyways, the safety car just put into the pit lane, and there's contact made between Jason Smith and Ronan Doherty. All the wheel covers would have flown off at that point as we go racing here in Road Atlanta once again. Controversial start to the race. These two, they love a little bit of nonsense on the formation laps, and we're seeing that once again. And Jason Smith has lost the position in towards turn number 1. Ronan Doherty gets it stick in towards turn number 3, and he's just about got ahead of his championship rival. They're nip and tuck heading up the hill. Brandon McCaughan, Dylan McClemens able to capitalise on this one. Jason Smith not going to be too happy with that one, but very, very interesting start to this race. Ronan's had a very poor run. Jason Smith might be able to attack down the back straight.
Yeah, speaking of nip and tuck, Ronan's definitely had a few nips at Jason over the course of that couple of corners. Had no idea what went on with the start there. It seemed like Ronan totally had the run on Jason, but wherever Jason placed his car, Ronan just couldn't get past him. As that's a crash, Logan Hoey going into the side of Jeremy Toomey. That one looks like it's on Logan at first sighting, but we shall have a look at the instant replay again. I'd love to go back and look at that formation lap instant as well. We were just saying about Jason kind of almost taking the mick behind the safety car. You were asking, was it going to catch him out one day? It's amazing. It's almost as if he heard you, Evan, that, you know, something that we thought was not really that much of an observation turned out to be an observation that exactly prayed tell, because he was almost dropping back from the safety car that was going back into the pits to try and wait for the race start. But the race had gone. He wasn't gone. And Ronan just said, right, I want to get through. Jason put his car right in front of him, and Ronan too late for him to respond. So, and then again, they clashed going through these series of corners here. So, yeah, definitely Jason will have the bit between his teeth now. But I just silliness. As you said, it's just silliness in the formation lap. That kind of nonsense. And again, last week with the formation lap, Jason, nonsense. That's costing him the opportunity to win this championship.
Does this bring us back to the point nicely where we talk about Dylan McClemens' maturity? Ronan and Jason acting like children on the formation lap, and then the championship leader is just sitting there picking up the pieces. Right, let's have another look at this one, and let's debunk this one then. So heading in towards 10A and 10B, Jason sort of went early and caught the safety car, or at least that's what it looked like, heading through here. Let's see when he accelerates. He accelerates there, catches up to the safety car, has to brake, and then Ronan runs straight into the back one.
Yeah,
so that is Jason's fault, and that's a brake check in my eyes.
It's just nonsense, isn't it? Like, it's just... Now, I know that he might have jumped the start too early or whatever, but, like, just all this playing around with the safety car, it just... I don't know. Oh, he's going very wide on that corner as well. He's a couple of times he stepped out on the back tires. He's managed to catch it. Has Jason gone off? Yeah, he's gone now, Jason. He's got that one wrong, and T1 proves to be his undoing. The top two in the championship both caught up by the same corner, and Jason, having started in P1, there's Peter McCann. We don't bother looking at that. That's just expected at this point in that corner. I'm sorry, Peter. You do know I really like you. But Jason, it's just, you know, it kind of brings me back to another incident. Oh, that's Ronan Doherty squeezing Brandon McCaughan on the outside, and absolutely no love lost between these two. As Brandon sticks it down the inside, and he gives as good as he gets, and I think that's a fair move by Brandon. Ronan tries to squeeze him out, and Brandon said, look, if you're going to leave the door open, I'm going to walk straight through it. Whether it stops you from going through, that's not my problem. Ronan won't be happy about it, but looked all in fair and love and racing to me there, I have to say, between the two, both of those incidents. Brandon getting squeezed first, and then he who squeezed decides to squeeze. Going back to Jason Smith, he looks like he's getting very, very wild now. I'd be careful if I was Kevin Joyce here, because I think Jason's a little bit annoyed about how this is all played out. But there was an incident that happened Jason's going to go into the pits. That's obviously damaged, I think, Jason, and that could be, it is the end of his race 2, and certainly whatever ground he made up on Dylan, Evan, it's gone through the floor now.
Yep, it's looking like for the second season running, it's going to be a McClemens versus Doherty season finale, because that's just all gone downhill from Jason Smith. Just lost the head a little bit, it seems, made the mistake in towards the first corner, and then, has had that incident and is now in the pits and down the order. He'll have race 3, of course, to come back, but remember, this decides the grid for race 3, so not looking too good for Jason Smith. What a piece of driving from Brandon McCaughan, by the way. He was given the barge by Ronan Doherty. You shall not pass, but he passed anyways, and Brandon just able to get the move down the inside, totally committed. We saw Pirouette McCann as well through turn number 1 once again. He made a mistake and very similar to spin to what we saw earlier in the race. The only thing is, with a smaller grid size, the spins aren't as costly. Let's have another look at this one then. Brandon McCaughan goes for the inside line. Ronan defends, held his line, but instead of chickening out, Brandon just tees this up a lot nicer for the next corner, dives down the inside in towards turn number 7. He's hit his apex there, and he's held the wheel all the way to the right through the corner. No harm, no foul there for me.
No, two very good, robust moves by both Ronan Darty and Brandon McCaughan, and I expect that won't be the end of this. We still have another 10 minutes of watching these two duke it out, and so impressive to see racing like that in these conditions. It's difficult enough to hot lap around here by yourself, never mind trying to say stick it down the inside and managing to make a move stick. So kudos to both of them. Superb driving. But I just want to come back. Like, there was a certain driver who's been mentioned plenty of times, who was a very, very, very quick driver. There's Jamal Gondor. He's gone down to P7 now. A very, very quick driver who raced in this league for many, many years, and really quick, and nobody doubted his pace. And he just could not stay out of trouble. He just couldn't stay out of trouble. Every single race, he was getting in spats.
Really slimmed that down.
He was gotten yeah. Those who know me know who I'm talking about, because there's a certain driver who's previously. Oh, there's a big accident there. That is Jamal Gondor and Logan Hoy, and the stewards will have a look at that, because it looked like Jamal closed the door a little bit there on Logan. He's hit the wall, Logan. I don't know if he's going to be able to keep going, Evan, but that's a little bit on the bold, naughty side from Jamal Gondor, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, we were literally talking about slightly aggressive racing, and then this happens. This happens on our screen. Let's have a look at this one then. Jamal Gondor came from a mile back, by the way. I'm not sure if he just got a brilliant. No, Logan got out of shape through this corner. That makes a bit of sense. So ran wide, heading through turn number 7. Gondor pushes to the outside. Let's see what happens here. Does he just come across Logan? They're side by side, and then still waiting for the incident to happen. Heading through the downhill, and there's a little bit of a nudge. Ooh, I'm not too sure about that one. There could be a little bit of net code involved, but I think Jamal might have moved a little bit. In all honesty, Logan's got away with it, thankfully. Hasn't picked up much damage. Now he's on the tail of Jamal once again. Is he going to return the favour?
Well, that makes me wonder. It definitely was Jamal giving the squeeze. There was enough track there for Logan to keep his car on the track, but I suppose at what point do you continue to drive towards the grass because the guy's closing the door on you? It's a very interesting one, because Jamal was quite forceful, I would say. Definitely knew what he was doing, but he did leave enough space. Definitely left 8 cars width, if that's what you want to talk about. So interesting. Jamal's going slightly wide here, which is going to give Logan a possible chance of getting a run. But anyway, I just feel like, I'm going to cut to the chase. I feel like Jason's in a similar category. A very nice guy. Oh, that's a big mistake by Jamal going through T1, but they are going to keep it going. It's a little bit of ballet between the two of these. And the two of the rawest guys skating, as speaking of ballet, I think we're going to have to put a leotard. We're going to have to paint a ballet leotard on Peter McCann's car for the next race, because every single time he's gone into that T1, he's ended up pirouetting around. I have to get him some pointy shoes instead of tires. But yeah, it's just for Jason. He's such a nice guy. Like, such a nice guy. He's brilliant in interviews. So honest, great crack. But I just wonder about, again, when we talk about Dylan's maturity,
You're really making sure you're making this point.
The maturity of Jason when it comes to trying to win championships. Maybe I'm laboring the point, but like, you get where I'm coming from. Like,
I do want to say one thing. He's just gone 7/10, or he's just gone 5/10 quicker than anyone across the circuit. He's just done 1:19.1. So no traffic really does make a difference for Jason Smith. Brandon McCaughan flying at the front as well. Did a 1:19.6 last time round. In terms of Peter McCann and turn number 1, Peter loves a good name. So I think we need to name the corner the Peter McCann Perpetual Corner at this point, because he's really not having a good time through it. Philip Upson's got past Logan Hoy. There's problems for Hoy. He's off the circuit and just recovering back onto the black stuff, and he's fallen to 13th position, disappointingly. We're over the 10-minute mark here. Let's have a look at this replay. See what happened, Logan.
Can we talk? Oh yeah, we'll talk through this, and then I have a question for you, Evan.
Oh.
Logan Hoy going, just dipping a tire there on that paint as it goes into T1, slightly wide. And then again, yeah, I have a petition to name T1 Peter's Pirouette.
Yeah, I'm happy. That means we
Peter's
now have
Pirouette.
Walsh's Corner in Mondello and Peter's Pirouette in Road Atlanta.
Road Atlanta.
I tell you what, we're growing as a corner naming business. Well, Ronan and you.
Yeah. You still have to get in on this, Evan. Jamal and Kevin Joyce. I'm just looking to see Logan Hoy's fallen back, obviously, because that's spin. But Jamal up to P6 now. Kevin Joyce in P5. Great running here from Kevin, as Brandon McGaughan, certainly, Evan, making a great claim for him to be driver of the day if he can get this going.
He is. He's really flying. So is Jamal Gandor, who, oh dearie me, oh dearie me, that's one of the best I've ever had. Just as we say, Jamal Gandor is a nominee for driver of the day, runs way off the circuit. He's done a fantastic job to not spin round there, recovered well. He is in 8th position. Brandon McCaughan actually under a huge amount of pressure now from Ronan Doherty. This could be an all-timer for myself and Kevin. Are we too wide up the hill here? Dermot Toomey, Ken Doyle. No, we're not. Dermot Toomey just staying ahead.
Don't drag me into this. You're the one who said that.
You started the whole Brandon driver of the day conversation.
Yeah, but Brandon's still P1. You're the one who called out Jamal Gandor for his performance. We got to Jamal Gandor. All you're missing is the Curb Your Enthusiasm theme song to play in the background. As Brandon desperately trying to stay with it, with Ronan Doherty all over his back. This is a really good battle between these two. This is superb racing from both of these guys. Oh no! Oh, I've done it! Bum, bum, bum.
I tell you what, that is an incredible commentator's curse. Brandon was struggling. He really was. Ronan Doherty was 5/10 of a second quicker. Oh, that's a snap and a half heading up the hill. Dylan McClements is going to get this position as well. Surely, what an opportunity he has. Brandon pivots to a defensive line, heading in towards the right-hander, and Dylan McClements won't be able to find a way past. Wow, Brandon was on course for his first ever RTA win. Is that Peter McCann again? No, it's Logan Hoy. But
and Ken Doyle.
Ken Doyle was off there as well. Controversy heading through turn number 1. We saw a lot of drivers struggle with it. We saw Dylan McClements lose 2nd place in Heat 1. Brandon lose the race lead in Heat 2. Might lose P2 as well here too, Dylan McClements. Sean is just lurking in the background as well. Disastrous. And I tell you what, there really is a race for the Commentator's Curse Award this season.
Yeah, who else do we want to destroy? Anybody want to mention anybody that we could potentially absolutely mess up their race?
It's still not as bad as me and poor Robbie Callahan last season. I think I cursed Robbie 4 races in a row.
Oh, well, that's a Robbie issue, not you. You can't help if somebody can't drive the car properly.
Yeah, exactly.
Here is Brandon trying to recover after getting wide there in that T1. That T1 has proven to be massively difficult, and like we're having a laugh here. We're laughing at the likes of Peter spinning around about 40,000 times, but in fairness to Peter and to every other driver on this grid, that T1 looks absolutely treacherous. And with the rain continuing, it's only going to keep getting worse as Brandon goes wide again there now, which is going to potentially allow Dylan in. That was on turn 5 there as they go down towards 6 and 7, 2 low-speed corners. And these P2s, Evan, like Ronan had mentioned it last week. Obviously, I'm not party to this as much being away, but the mid-season, in quotations, I suppose, for us, update on these P2s has really affected the driver's ability to try and keep these cars under control.
Yeah, it has. And I think it's actually affected their enjoyment of it as well, because I know a lot of drivers were so excited to drive this car. And, well, come the second half of the season, they've realised this is quite difficult. As Brandon McCaughan, I thought he was out of shape again heading into the chicane, but he is, in fact, okay. Ronan Doherty leads by 3 seconds heading on to the last lap of the race. He cannot extend it to make this the last lap. He has to go around for one more trip of Road Atlanta. And Brandon McCaughton has to survive one more trip with two McClements brothers charging him down. Kevin Joyce in fifth place as well is continuing his strong form. Jason is once again putting in fastest laps. He's just put in a 1:18.8. That's quite ridiculous, in fact, and he's making the clean air work. Sean all over the back of Dylan, but going by what we've seen, he's not going to make an overtake.
I think Sean's doing the iRacing equivalent of "You're doing great, honey." Just hanging around, hanging around the back and just
I
letting
don't
his
think
brother
Sean's
know
that
that.
nice.
I don't know. I mean, he did leave his brother pass by him in the last two races this year, so I definitely think Sean is 100% Team Dylan. As Ronan just extends that lead, and really great stuff from Ronan, like involved in a very good battle. And I think Ronan might be a little bit disappointed. I'd be interested to chat to him between the races because I think he'd be a little bit disappointed to see Brandon go off because they had a
Okay.
good ding dong battle, and I think Ronan really enjoys that. I think he's probably now it looks like without putting the curse, and I'm gonna try and whatever I need to do to make sure that I save Dylan from potentially throwing away this championship. But I think this result really almost nails on the championship for Dylan as Ronan crosses the line, and as I talk about Dylan, he crosses in P3 ahead of Jason Smith down in P15, Sean McClements in fourth, so Ronan Darty, Brandon McCaughon, and Dylan McClements. But Dylan has all but secured the championship really now. If he continues with a good strong run in this final race, it's going to be very, very hard to see anybody catching him, even with the drop rounds, because Jason has lost massive ground on him both of these rounds. So, for Ronan's point of view, I just imagine he's enjoying the racing now for what it is at this point, as Peter manages not to spin on the last corner. Let's see if he can manage the in lap. And Logan Hoy has decided to do something very illegal, and I don't think the stewards are going to like that very much. So it'll be interesting to see what they have to say about that, crossing the finish line in the pit lane.
Jason Smith had another incident because that's from Bumper Gone, and he has ended his race in the pit box. Let's have another look at this one if we can. No, we're not going to get another look at that one. So it is Ronan Doherty who takes the race way ahead of Brandon McCaughton in second, Dylan McClements in third, Sean McClements in fourth, Kevin Joyce in fifth, Simon Hutchings in sixth, David Prunty in seventh, ahead of Jamal Gandor in eighth, Tony Stack in ninth, ahead of Dermot Toomey in 10th. And it is Philip Upson, Peter McCann, Ken Doyle, Logan Hoy, and Jason Smith. Kevin, I think we're going to have Ronan Doherty join us now.
Yeah, I'd love to have a chat with Ronan. Darren, the second race, Ronan again, very, very, very strong stuff last week and this week. I seem to be a positive for you because when I've come back, you seem to be right back in the thick of things. I was talking to Evan there about your battle with Brandon, and certainly no inch given by both of you. But I was saying to Evan, I reckon you were a little bit disappointed to see Brandon go off there near the end. I think you would have enjoyed that battle right to the line.
Yeah, fortunately went off. It's very hard to not make mistakes and stuff. And the way he got past me in the first place, I made a mistake on my own and completely lost all momentum. So look, it's a war of attrition in the wet. My pace is pretty shocking today compared to what it usually is. So I'm just able to hang in there and squeeze out a result.
Yeah, it's just talking about it being a war of attrition. We saw so many people spin on turn one. I mean, Peter McCann did it enough to count for all the rest of the grid. Let's be honest, but even everybody else. What is it about that corner that's so tricky? Why does it keep catching people out? Do you think?
Um, there's puddles on the braking firstly, and then there's quite a lot of water build up on the inside. The track compresses in at the apex, so but you always want to sort of push the boundary a bit more each lap, and there is a lot of time to be found there in the wet. So I think it's probably people just trying to push a little too hard for the conditions, and visibility also is a factor.
Now we're talking about the potential breakdown in Team DDR, where it'll be interesting to see if you guys are around next year following Curly Whirly Gate. But speaking of the team, you obviously now have put yourself in an outside position for the championship, going up against Dylan. So it gives it a very different dynamic now. Do you still think you could potentially be on for the championship if you know, like, you're going to have to win all the last 4 of these races, but you think it's possibility for you?
Not at all. No, I hope Dylan wins it. But like, if I hadn't got past Brandon there, I was going to just let Dylan in the second for another 2 points. But I thought I'd give it a crack at the win. No, the championship. The first round was on pole, and then technical difficulties, I guess we'll just call it that, Ron, it came into play, and I've been taken out a few times and stuff, and then yeah. So even though I think I have the most poles and most wins, I think, but it just hasn't really went my way.
Well, I'm glad to see on my return that you're certainly getting plenty of poles and plenty of wins in the last 2 weeks. Ronan, congratulations, P1.
Are you glad to see it, Kevin?
I am genuinely.
Yeah.
I am glad to see it, Ronan. No, I actually am genuinely glad to see it. You should watch back now and see how complimentary I was up to
Yeah.
both yourself and Brandon about your battle that was going on.
Yeah.
Get
I
around.
think you're really could do it one in Donegal. Actually, I've no contact.
Yeah, well, that would be an awkward one because I actually don't live in Donegal. So.
Yeah, he's
Oh
from
well,
Antrim.
I am no use to you. So, all right. So, I can't say f off, but you know, whatever the equivalent of
Au revoir.
Ronan. Au revoir. Yeah. Take it easy. No, honestly, Ronan, genuinely, congratulations, and he's gone. That was an interview.
That was a chronic interview.
That went wrong very quickly, didn't it? That was
Yeah.
doing absolutely fine, and then it just completely derailed on
you
me.
got into a relationship with Ronan Doherty, then said you wanted to go to Donegal, which is Jordan Kelly's place of residence, so you messed that one up pretty quickly.
It's not the worst thing I've ever said on a first date. Do we want to take somebody else, Evan, for yourself?
Yeah, we don't have anyone else. No one else has joined, so we won't be able to do anyone else. There is only 30 seconds left until we go for the Heat 3 as well. Poll for this one is Jamal Gandor.
I'm still reeling from that interview. Jamal. Can we just say nothing about him, and then at least if he spins out, we are not.
No, I'm sorry. Well, I have to mention him because it's partially my job. But I think if Jamal somehow manages to win this race, this will without question be the greatest moment in RTA Virtual Motorsports history.
That's it.
That's all I say.
So David Prunty's in second, Simon Hutchins, the Welsh Dragon, in third, Kevin Joyce fourth, Sean McClemens fifth, Dylan McClemens sixth, Brandon McGaughan seventh, and the man I fell in love with and fell back in love with, oh, but a fleeting romance, Ronan Doherty in eighth position. Tony second, ninth, Dermot Toomey 10th, Philip Upson 11th, Angelina Ballerina, aka Peter McCann, in 12th, Kevin Doyle in 13th, Logan Hoy in 14th, and Jason Smith turning down in 15th. Only 15 drivers on the grid, as we say, but still, we're seeing some really good action nonetheless. I mean, given the conditions, like, these guys are really serving up some very good stuff, Evan.
They are. I have to say, there's been some impressive driving. It might not be overtakes or some of the usual pizzazz, but even a couple of the saves from the spins have been quite impressive. Kevin Joyce is especially through the final corner, avoiding to not hit the wall. Jamal Gandor as well, after commentator cursed him. His save was quite good, heading through turn number 1. The fact Peter McCann has still had some relatively decent finishing positions is a testament to, I suppose, maybe his never give up attitude or something like that. But we've still seen some good action. It's not what Formula V's were, in cars swapping every 10 seconds, but it is entertaining. And that's, I suppose, all you can ask for.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can't just do that every week, because otherwise it does get boring. So it's nice to see something a little bit different. Ronan massively jumping the gun there, because it's going to be another minute and a half before they get to come down that hill. But Jamal leads us out. Love this format, especially in these conditions. Hopefully we don't see any hijinks in front of the pace car this lap, and I would love to see. Well, yeah, let's just not comment on this. And hopefully we see Jamal Gandor do well, because I would love to see him do very well. That's all I'll say. I'd love to see him do well this race.
I think everyone would. He's the Stephen Bunting of RTA Virtual Motorsports. If you know, you know, folks. Jamal, of course, had a bit of health issues this year as well. Great to see how well he's doing, but just a quick get well soon to another RTA driver. I have heard that Connor Melia has had a bit of an operation. So, Connor, if you're watching, we'd like to send you our thoughts and hope you get well soon and you're back on the grid as soon as possible. So Jamal Gandor heading in towards the final sector just needs to get a clean getaway here, Kevin, because we know how bad that spray is in towards the first corner for all those behind.
Yeah, and we know how easily once into it, you don't know what the guy next to you is going to do. You don't know who's going to potentially miss a breaking point or who might make a mistake. So, giving yourself as much space on track. I mean, Jason's taking that to the nth degree, but giving yourself as much space on track while the race is running, I'd hasten to add, is really a very, very good idea. So if Jamal can get away, can get a clean start, he'll be hoping to see some carnage in his rearview mirror, and that will buy him some time. There's no better feeling, I have to say, speaking from experience, than to lead a race and see P2 wipe out the rest of the field and then have 10 seconds or 11 seconds in the next car and just cruise around to victory.
And in that
That's
case,
a very...
P2 was probably Ronan Hederman for Kevin. Anyways, keep an eye on Dylan McClements as well in 5th place. As there is contact on the race start. This time it's from Kevin Joyce. Jamal Gandor puts pedal to the metal as we go racing once again in Atlanta, and that is about as well as he probably could have asked for this race start to go. David Prunty looking to try and catch up. Sean McClements has to defend from Brandon McCollum behind as well, and there is 3 wide in towards the first corner, but they back out. They all see a little bit more sense. Gandor leads up the hill, and there is a half spin. That is Sean McClements, who is all out of shape heading through the first corner. Dylan McClements' firing partner has had a bit of an error, and Jason Smith dives Tony Stack in towards turn number 3. There was a little bit of a nudge between the two blue machines, but Smith is up and through and already into the top 10.
Yeah, great start from Jason. Went down the inside, very aggressive. I think people know that he has the bit between his teeth now. He has some real work to do if he's to try and claw any opportunity of winning this championship back from the man you see in your screen here, the number 88 car, Dylan McClements. Sean won't be there to protect him this time, as that's Ronan, Dave Prunty going off our P2, making a mistake there, going down the straight, and that's going to cost him a massive amount of time, because this is the only really long straight. As we have a look at P1 in race 1 and race 2, and P2 in, or P3 in last race, to Brandon McGaughan. Now, these guys had a good old ding-dong battle as Jason does down the inside Logan Hoy, and Logan wasn't giving him a huge amount of space, but Jason just sneaking through. But Ronan and Brandon renewing that rivalry, things you love to see.
Yes, as Jason and Logan might be our version of Muhammad Ali versus Joe Fraser. Just hammers being thrown left, right and centre down towards turn number 10 and 11. But Jason got the move done nonetheless, and he is able to get past. Jason is really flying in this race. So we will see what happens once he catches Ronan Doherty and Brandon McCollum. Jamal Gandor leads by 2 seconds over Simon Hutchings. Jamal needs Simon to become an absolute blockade. Just give him as much time to try and run away. Logan Hoy trying to overtake Dermot Toomey in towards the right-hander as well. He's on the inside line. Dermot has ran very wide in through there, but does leave Logan a lot of space. Is able to carry the momentum around the outside of the number 6. So Logan will have to stay behind for the time being, but might be able to tuck into the slipstream. Get the run down towards 10A and 10B. Peter McCann is behind Tony Stack in towards the chicane as well. No spin so far for Peter, so that's the best that the race has gone so far this evening here in Road Atlanta. He might look for the overtake as well on the carryman of Tony Stack. McCann goes for the outside line. Tony very defensive. Peter breaks later, and that is not a great move. McCann spins round. It's not at turn 1 this time.
No, and it's not his fault this time, but it's hard as well to apportion blame on Tony Stack, because Tony has the right to the inside of that corner as well, and it's a hard one because there is a good battle between those two, but the way the angles were going, like, they were never going to fit both into that corner. They were both too narrow. It would have taken Peter to come wider and to try and swoop around the outside, and he didn't. He kind of came across Tony a little bit, so it's a difficult one. It's hard to apportion blame there. You would say on first viewing that it would be Tony Stack, but then it's just easy to say that because Peter's the one who ended up getting turned around. Just an unfortunate one. And those guys race together all the time. I'm sure there'll be no bad blood between them.
Yes, Ronan Doherty dives down the inside of Kevin Joyce, and he is able to make the move stick. Brandon McCaughton also sneaks through in the meantime as they head down towards the chicane. Kevin Joyce falling to 6th position. That's still a strong point score for Kevin. If he is able to remain there, he's fighting back though. Doesn't want to settle for 6th. He's had a taste of a trophy by Motorsport.ie. Wants another one, wants to fill up that mantelpiece. Who needs photos of the kids? He wants Motorsport.ie LMP2 Cup trophies.
Speaking of somebody who we wanted to have a good race, 2.5 seconds is Simon
He's
Hutchins
flying.
down the road. I think Jamal's
Sorry
the
to
only...
just butt in, Kevin, but Jamal Gandor was 0.7 of a second quicker than Ronan Doherty on the last lap.
Jamal's... Oh, that's a big incident between Kevin Joyce and Jason Smith. Yeah, I think Kevin just decided, look, all right, pal, you go ahead. You do your thing. I'm not getting caught up in this.
Yeah, that was a smart approach from Kevin Joyce. That could have gone very wrong, and there could have been a lot of language in the race chat in the Discord server post race if that had gone wrong. And so, oh no, it's Jamal Gandor who spun heading through turn number 7. Gantry hearts shatter.
Ah, lads, you can't be doing this every single time you mention somebody's name. This is ridiculous. Every single time you mention somebody, they make an absolute hames of something. Here's Dylan now with Brandon. I think Dylan is likely to give Brandon the inside line, yes, and then we're going potentially 3 wide through the next corner. Jason Smith involved in it, and all of a sudden, Jason Smith from starting down the back of the grid has Dylan McClements in his sight and Ronan Doherty. Don't expect Jason to play nice with these two. The two DDR boys are what's standing between him and potentially a championship win. This is, speaking of heavyweights, this is like Big Joe Joyce taking on Tommy Fury. As we see the first punch from Jason Smith, Ronan goes off the
Brandon
back
got as well.
Oh, that is a really tricky one. I'm not gonna play Sim Racing Stewards here, but
Can I just say, the battle for the race lead is now McClements versus Smith. So
could we not just all have seen that coming? Like, did we not all see that coming a million miles away, or was it just me?
does a cow go in the field? That's all I say. But yeah, I think we expected that one. 7-10 separates Dylan McClements and Jason Smith at the top of the order, and I mean, I think we've only had the undercard for now because it's the two championship contenders all season who are going to be fighting. Ronan Doherty is going to look to try and get past his cousin Sean McClements down towards the chicane. The two Team DDR teammates. I can't imagine there'll be much fighting here. Well, actually, there might be because both of their races are pretty gone by now. Down in 8th and 9th, and it's not looking like they're going to be able to fight their way through. Ronan goes for the outside, no move on there.
Yeah, no move on there for Ronan, but yeah, he will not be a happy camper at all with how that played out. He would have seen Jason as relative, and potentially he would have been expecting contact. Dylan now has a very interesting game to play here because it's risk versus reward here for Dylan.
Yeah.
Like, you could hold off. Like, you've Simon Hutchins 3 seconds down the road, you know he's quicker than you're quicker than him. And Simon seems to have made a mistake here because he's dropping way down the relative behind Jason. But no, he's just driving slower than Jason because he's literally going down tenths of seconds straight away. As we're starting to see some of the others get frustrated now, try and make their way back, which puts Jamal Gandor under pressure as Kevin Joyce makes a move on Logan Hoey. Good move there from Joyce to get past Logan Hoey. Yeah, if I was Dylan, I would say discretion is the better part of valor. Jason is starting to catch up on him 6/10 now. I wouldn't be battling. That would be my own personal opinion. And I reckon from what we've seen from Dylan so far, I suspect Jason will get a bit of a hall pass to go through here, because if Jason knocks into Dylan and it's given as a steward's incident, then that's all of Dylan's good work this evening destroyed, basically. So I think for Dylan, just take a handy and leave Jason go through when the time's right.
Yeah, the points difference between first and second in this race, and in all races, is 2. The points difference that could happen if these guys start scrapping is a lot more than 2. Dylan is a very, very, very smart and intelligent young driver. He's going to make the right decision here. Whether he thinks that's battling or not, he will know at the time if he has the capabilities to fight. I mean, at the minute, Jason's not even getting close to him, so he may as well keep pushing on. And they are dropping Simon Hutchings. Here comes Logan Hoy looking for the move on Jamal Gandor down the inside. This is for 4th place. Gandor just runs it way wider than Logan Hoy, and that has worked an absolute treat for Jamal. Even though the chance of a race win might have gone a begging for Jamal, this is still a really good race for him if he could finish in the 4th. Here's Kevin Joyce looking to attack Logan Hoy in towards the chicane. We're almost halfway through this one, and it's been thoroughly entertaining so far. Joyce going to have the outside line, Hoy on the inside for the first part of the chicane. Logan's going to break a lot later than Kevin Joyce. That's a very, very brave braking from Logan Hoy, and it's forced Kevin Joyce into a mistake. This is going to allow Ronan Doherty to try go down the inside and towards the final corner, and yes, Ronan has got the move done.
Yeah, just about very helter-skelter and hairy for the 2 of them, but they did manage to get it done in the end. As Dearman started popping out, he's going to put a bit of pressure on Sean Clements, who dips his rear left tyre on the grass, and that forces him out wide, which means he's going to lose there, Sean. He actually lost that. We were talking there in the interval to Ronan Doherty about T1, and he was saying that there's water on the braking marker. I wonder, is that what happened? Did Sean just hit a little bit of water, and then instead of going, he kind of went straight on as
Oh no.
lads, as in the words of a very famous Irish rally go driver, lads, sure, this is only a joke.
No, the corners didn't suit you, Peter.
No, the corners didn't suit you.
At what point have we gone too far with this Peter McCann turn 1
Well, I mean,
shenanigans?
if he keeps spilling out, then I don't know what he expects from us. That's a good one. Oh, that's superb work there. Evan, gold star for you. That was very funny. Jamal Gandor. Yeah, as you say, it's been a great race from thus far, regardless. But what an opportunity he had, Evan! Like a couple of seconds down the road, and I know that the faster drivers probably it's very tight between the 2 of those, and both of them 2 wide through the final corner. Ronan has the inside line, a wheel bang between the 2 of them, another one, and potentially a third. Oh, God, Echo doesn't. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, no, he's gone. He has been sent to the shadow realm.
Yeah, that was kind of inevitable. I think any 2 drivers that would have happened to be fair. Very impressive to hold it through the final corner, but just pushed the luck.
Yeah, sorry, Evan. Of all the races I've ever commentated on Gantry TV and our predecessors, this is the one that most resembles a Mario Kart race. Like, it's just like you just get knocked out. They get the banana, they're out in the grass, they come back, 3 other people end up on the grass, they come back into 4th. It's just like, it's like, can anybody actually get through a lap without an instant point? That must be one of the highest. I'd actually love to go back and see the total amount of instant points accrued by the grid over the course of this race, because it must be absolutely enormous.
It has to beat the record, surely. I think Findlay Melvin is the record, like 60 or something along those lines. It has to beat that. This is it's getting to ridiculous levels. We're 1 banana peel short of a Mario Kart race, as you said, Kevin. It's thoroughly entertainment. Okay, it's actually not even that bad. That's actually quite impressive. Ronan has just told us that it's never really that accurate. So
well, what was Peter McCann's there? I definitely don't think Peter McCann's was as low as what it said it was, to be honest. But anyway, Diarmid Toomey, getting through there. He is in P8. It's a good standing for him, but it's funny because, like, we talk about it being good races for guys. Like, you know, you look at Diarmid Toomey, and I don't want to be overly harsh on him as he goes down to P9. You think, okay, well, top 10, but there's only 15 runners, so it's like, you know, it's like finishing, let's say, P5 in a 7-car race as opposed to, let's say, a 13-car race. You know, it's a big difference.
Oddly specific there, Kevin. I like it. To be honest, I think these guys just want to get to the end at this point. It's one of these things that you just want it to be over. This has been very, very difficult. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I think you've thoroughly enjoyed it, Kevin, and I hope the viewers at home have. But for the drivers, this has not been a fun time of things. I love this track, and when it rains, it really does pour around here. It's been It's been something else on Gantry TV tonight. Here comes Jamal Cantor, I should say, going for it on Kevin Joyce. Very defensive maneuver from Kevin Joyce. Jamal breaks about 50 metres too late, runs off the circuit, and Sean McClements is able to sneak through as well.
Yeah, Jamal with the top strat and slowing down is trying to use your opponent to help you slow down, like a sort of a grand.
There was a touch of the Wreckfest.
Oh,
speaking of Wreckfest!
That's a massive one between the two red cars. That's Joyce and McClements. Oh, that's enormous going through that corner. Thank God we're in sim racing and not in real life, because that would have been red flags and loss of life. I think if that was an enormous accident between those two.
That was ferocious. That was about 200 kilometers an hour directly into concrete. Yeah, thank goodness that this is a simulator and both of those guys are chilling at home and they can go and make a cup of tea after this one with no issues. It was Sean McClements and Kevin Joyce? Yes, it was.
Yeah, he had the run on Joyce, so he went around the outside.
McClements goes for the outside. Does Joyce just drift wide? Yeah, Kevin just drifted wide and Sean had nowhere to go. Wow, that is an impact and a half.
Yeah, it's massive, and it just goes to show you how difficult it is to go too wide here, because like it's just that rain. Once you hit so much standing water on the inside of the track, it just gives that understeer straight away. You lose all grip, whatever bite you had goes out the window, and you can even see here, just looking at the cam as we look at the back there, very menacing Jason Smith. Cue the Jaws music, I think it's fair to say, given the way the race has gone thus far. But yeah, you just look at if we have a look at the front axle cam here, looking towards the front there, it is just so much standing water on the track. Like we'll just have a look at these corners here, have a look at the inside of these corners, have a look at the little greasy spots there you see and this is coming down the hill. So look at that, look at on the inside of the corner there, you can see how much standing water there is, big puddles forming. Once you hit those puddles, you really are a passenger. So you got to hope that your car, manages to continue its turning circuit. But if it doesn't, like we saw there, you just go straight into the outside, and whoever's in your path ends up being party to the accident. As Jason Smith again dipping a tire on that left-hand side. Is it now time for Dylan to move by and leave Jason through? He certainly isn't doing it though.
Yeah, and Dylan knows there's only 4 minutes left in this race. If he can force Jason into a bit of a mistake that drops him a second behind, that could be curtains. Dylan has driven a really mature race, but Jason Smith is going to dive it down the inside. McClements has to run for the outside of the corner. Round goes Jason Smith, and that is not what Jason Smith needed. Dylan McClements, if he can just drive home for the final 4 minutes, is going to crown himself a champion-elect. Not confirmed for now. Leads by 3.3 seconds. We knew the move from Jason was coming. Thankfully, the purple machine for Dylan has come through the right side of it, and Ronan's run off the circuit as well, just to put a button on a championship contention almost.
Oh, too wide there is Jamal Gandor and Logan Hoy. I want to come back to that incident that they bang wheels again. This is a great battle between these two, which is continuing. Logan went off earlier on, but he's absolutely viciously defending against the 961 Simpson machine. Yeah, it's funny how these things work out, because Jason involved in a very similar incident in the exact same corner with Ronan Doherty. Ronan Doherty, the injured party in that time. And it's funny how, I wouldn't say racing karma, as Jamal,
oh dear,
very robustly, a little bit too robustly, I would say, holds off or tries to get through against Logan Hoy. It's funny how these things work out, because it's not karma, because I wouldn't say that there was any bad intent on Jason's part, but it's just funny how these things are kind of circular. They come back around at you, and it is the exact same similar move in the similar corner, but this time Jason Smith, it's one too many for Jason, and he ends up spinning out. And as you say, now this is the road clearing, the heavens opening for Dylan McClements as we get set to maybe potentially next week. I don't think it's going to happen this week, but definitely next week, crown the youngest ever winner of an RTA series. And I have to say, fitting that Dylan finally gets a win on the board, because it would be weird to have a championship winner without a race win. So fitting that Dylan gets a feature win on the board here, if he can guide it round carefully, tiptoe around over the next 2 and a bit minutes.
Oh, Ronan Doherty all out of shape. I have to say for Dylan McClements as well, one of the most clutch performers I've ever seen in sim racing, because doesn't win a race all season last season, wins in the penultimate round of the season to give himself a very good chance of winning a championship. It went to begging last season due to, I believe, incidents out of his control. This season, wins in the penultimate round for the first time. As Jamal and Logan, Jamal into the wall now, and ultra breaks Jamal. Okay, he actually did a good job of that, getting to the other side of the circuit. But Jamal and Logan, in potentially the dirtiest fight of all time, they have brought it to a conclusion.
Speaking of Joe Joyce, this is the sim race equivalent to bare knuckle boxing. Like the two are just baiting the absolute crap out of each other for the last 20 minutes.
this is RTA Junior B.
It's not even Junior B. I'm waiting for Jamal to video a call out video. This one goes to you, Logan. Like it's just they've just been standing toe to toe with no respect for each other for the last 20 minutes. This is absolutely amazing. This is the funniest race I've ever commentated
if
on.
you could have a sim race in an underground bunker somewhere, this would be that sim.
Honestly, this is the sim race equivalent to Fight Club. Like we just don't. The rule number one of the feature race is don't talk about the feature race. Dylan coming down the hill now. Will he be able to cross the line? Yeah,
Yeah,
he's gonna cross the line. So Evan, I'll hand it over to you to see the end of what has been a wacky race, and I really mean.
He has survived the elements. He survived Jason Smith. He survived his own mistakes. And finally, for the first time in an LMP2 machine, Dylan McClements will crown himself a race winner and put one hand on the championship trophy. Jason Smith will come home in second. Had a stellar couple of last laps to try catch up to Dylan McClements. Brandon McCaughton will come home in third for his second podium of the day, and Ronan Doherty will recover to fourth. Simon Hutchings, by the way, brilliant drive to come home in fifth. He held on there. It was all happening around him, but he kept his head and got the result.
It's been fantastic and really a sign of a real true champion as Logan Hoy again decides to finish in the pits, which meant he lost places there to Tony Stack in the end by doing that. So, jokes on him. Yeah, it's really been fantastic. There's Pirouette Peter again crossing the line, going into his favorite corner, managing to go through there though without spinning, which is quite an achievement. So yeah, it really has been the drive of a champion from Dylan McClements this evening, not just in this race, but this evening. Like it's been just an absolute joke shop of a race, and I mean that not necessarily always the negative way, but it's just been an absolutely zany race. And for Dylan, like Dylan's the one like bastion of common sense through tonight. Everybody else, literally everybody else, has been caught up in some sort of issue with somebody else, apart from Peter McCann, who's let's not even go there. Peter McCann probably has motion sickness now from the amount of times he spun around on his rig.
He still finished 10th.
Yeah, it's incredible. Top 10 last two races. But yeah, Dylan is just like obviously a mistake in T1, which we've heard is a very, very tricky corner. But like it's been just so impressive. Like he's just impressed me so much, Dylan. And we saw him a couple of years ago, first arriving into the scene, and no doubt about his pace, but wasn't quite at the front of the field pace, wasn't quite there, has massively added. And I think this is a great sign for Dylan when you see a young driver like that developing, getting faster, and developing that racecraft. And I think, look, I really hope, and I hope to say that this is the first of very, very many championships for Dylan in both sim and real life next week, because he is massively impressing me, not just with his driving ability, but just with his just with his attitude and his racecraft and his maturity. It's just massively impressive all around.
We will hear from him in a second, but let's just run you through the final results quickly, folks. Dylan McClements topping the order, had a Jason Smith in second, and it was Brandon McCaughton, Ronan Doherty, Simon Hutchings, Dermot Toomey, Philip Upson, Tony Stack, David Prunty, Peter McCann, Logan Hoy, Sean McClements, Kevin Joyce, Jamal Gandor, and then Ken Doyle, who decided to not bother with all that chaos and finishing 15th. Let's hear from Dylan McClements, then your race leader. Dylan, congratulations! It is your first race win of the season.
Yeah, it's been a while. Like, I mean, I haven't fought for the race as hard as in the wet. I know I have to pace in the wet, but yeah, it's been a while, and I'm really happy. And then it might gap out of the top of the championship, and hopefully I could grab that and race win next weekend.
You had Jason Smith clawing in on you in the last couple of laps, and it was kind of always known that he was going to go for an overtake. What did you plan going into that moment? Did you plan to defend? Did you plan on letting them through?
I was gonna try fight it because I want to try go for wins now and just try not be consistent. I want to win and win the championship, not like a Alan Prost way, you know. Because I haven't had a race win in a while. I was gonna fight that one as much as I could. And lucky for me, Jason spun and I had a gap to you know go back into my zone and win the race.
And then, of course, you mentioned that next week you might be able to wrap up the championship. Are you going to go into the race with a different mindset, or just do what you always do?
I'm not sure. I might just try go for the run again because I think I have a decent enough gap. Even if I do go off one race, I'll still on it. So, hopefully I'll be up there on the pace and battling for the race lead.
Dylan, congratulations on the first race win of the season, and all come next week. You might have a first championship to celebrate as well.
All right, cheers, Evan.
Now, well, this could be interesting. I'm going to hand it over to Kevin Galvin to talk to Jason Smith.
Oh yeah, because the last one went so well. Thanks, Evan. Jace, it's kind of a funny one. Jason, it's already started badly. Would you just shut up and let me do? Jesus Christ, Jason, tell me, as the dogs walked in now, it's all gone wrong. It's all gone Pete Tong here. Jason, tell me, like, it's a bit of a funny one for you. I just want to ask you first of all, the race 2 kind of shenanigans with Ronan and the pace car. Like, I just love to know where that came from, because you were kind of, am I fair to say, kind of messing about in front of the base car, and then you just got caught out by it? Is that kind of what happened?
Just a safety car. I think he was somebody else driving the safety car. I think he was just trying to do me over. No, but no, I was just trying to warm the tires when I was going in front of the safety car, and then I just misjudged it. I thought I went in earlier than it did, but it obviously didn't. Then I got a penalty for it. So okay, I always make one little mess up in the races. So yeah. Well, we'll say one. We'll say one.
It's well, yeah, because obviously you kind of had in the feature race then, like, two really similar instances with Ronan, where Ronan got sent off, and then you obviously got spun around by Dylan. Like, I suppose you kind of have to be philosophical when, like, it kind of works for you and then works against you, right? Because, like, it could have, like, that first instant, same thing could have happened to you as well.
Yeah, no, it's just, to be fair, Dylan didn't touch me. It was just on the inside. It's just really slippy. I just got caught out really, but no, it's just the interesting race. It was great fun to drive, to be fair, but I went to having my best start in the first race and getting the lead to having one of the worst starts I've had. So.
Well, that's the thing. You absolutely flew it in the first race, 5 or 6 places by the time we got to the first corner. But overall, like, I'm just interested, like, because obviously you've had the pace. Like, there's no doubting that you're very quick around here. But it's just those kind of incidents that you're, again, like, even second race, started pole, then got caught up, got caught out, and then you're starting to go from the back to front then for the last race. Like, are you kind of annoyed at yourself about the instance, or have you kind of reflected on it, or how do you feel about the championship as a whole for yourself?
Yeah, no, it's just not enough practice being put in behind the scenes, and then just unlucky weekends like this and misjudging things, and having net code with people. It's just the way things go. Dylan probably has it more or less wrapped up now, so I knew going in anyway. Dylan had to have a bad weekend, and he didn't again, to be fair. So well done to him.
No, and look, fair play to yourself as well. I mean, some great results over the course of the year, and again, challenging up the top again this week. And as we said, like obviously finishing top in the first race. So look forward to seeing you back for the next season in the F4s, and looking forward to seeing what you can do in the next championship, and maybe things might go a little bit different for you next time around.
Yeah, no. Hopefully, me and Jordan are drawing on championship titles for RTA. So no, I'll have to try win one at some stage to get the upper hand on Jordan. But he'll probably be doing next season anyway, so it'll be a good battle. But yeah, no, thanks very much, guys.
Thank you very much, Jason, Jace, Jezza, the J Man.
Please stop. You're in your
I'm
30s.
gonna keep going. JS. No, just to spite you, I'm gonna keep doing it. We're also
Brilliant.
joined by Brandon McGaughan. And Evan, I'm going to leave you do this time. But what I'm going to do is every time you say anything that I don't like, I'm just going to interject over the top of your interview and absolutely ruin it.
Yeah, that's kind of what Ronan Hederman does behind the scenes. To be fair, Brandon, congratulations, 2 podiums tonight, but could have been a race win in race 2. What happened there?
Yeah, just struggling with understeer and eventually ran deep into turn 1 and let Ronan bypass me. But it was a good race. It's the best round I've had yet since joining the championship. So happy enough. Not sure where it'll leave me in the championship, but should be good going into the last round.
Wet conditions then, such as Road Atlanta. We haven't asked any of the other drivers about it post all 3 races. Did you enjoy these sort of conditions? Because they looked very difficult.
I enjoyed it, yeah. It was challenging, and people were making a lot of mistakes. It kept it very interesting, like that race free. I span out the lead and ended up way down the field, and ended up third again. It was just hectic like that. It was a good leveler. Definitely given the racing in these cars with them not having much to it made everything a bit more exciting.
And then the season as a whole, then, how do you think that's gone?
Going alright, yeah. Just lacking a bit of pace on maybe like the top 4 or 5, but I've been consistent. Like I've finished in the top 10 every race so far, so happy enough. It's my first time really doing any sim racing championship, so it's been good. Good. I've learned a good bit from it and enjoyed it.
Yeah, then of course we have the F4s up next. Last year, 2024, in real life, you drove both prototypes and single seaters. So you're looking forward to doing the same here on the sim this year?
Yeah, that 4 should be good. The racing should be good and close on it, and yeah, it's quite lucky that I've, had a better real life experience for both of the championships.
Brandon, thank you very much for joining us. Congratulations on the podiums, and we'll let you go enjoy your evening.
Cheers.
Thanks for interrupting me there, Kevin.
Yeah, no, brothers. I just kept nice and quiet now for your interview. Just the commentators. What would I say? That's the code. But not
Well, I
all
mean,
of
the
us
interview
decided.
wasn't 15 minutes long, so.
Oh, not all of us decided to follow us. That's fair enough. No, I joke. Look, I suppose we have one more job for this evening, and that, if we haven't already been falling out enough, is driver of the day. Now, I have an actual nomination. I don't know what you have for us, but I have an actual proper nomination, and that is the man you just spoke to there, Brandon McGaughan. I think he's had a really, really good evening. Obviously, Dylan has been superb over the course. I'd love to see what people in YouTube comments have to say, but I think it would be nice to mark Brandon's really excellent evening in these conditions with a Driver of the Day award.
Yeah, my serious nomination would be Brandon as well. I'd agree with you. I would have gone Jamal up until whatever in the name of anything happened in that last race. But yeah, my serious suggestion would be Brandon. He mentioned it himself there in the interview. Hasn't finished outside the top 10 yet, like this season. And then, of course, had a great evening tonight. Should have probably won race 2, and he'll be kicking himself tonight going to sleep thinking back at that. But yeah, I'm going to agree with you, Kevin, and go for Brandon McCaughan, driver of the day.
Yeah, I think Peter McCann took the phrase "going for a spin" quite literally. But yeah, Brandon, a great drive by him and a very deserving driver of the day. And if you can't tell, we're already 7 races championship and we're getting to the end of the season.
Just
Um,
sorry to butt in, Kevin, but just speaking of the championship, they already have the points updated on
Ooh.
RTAVirtualMotorsport.com.
Interesting.
Heading into Brazil, Dylan McClemens has a 64-point lead over Ronan Doherty in second.
Yeah, that's kind of what we saw over the last couple of weeks. Ronan's done really well to get himself back into this championship, given how he has. That's great work there by
Yeah, that's
Ronan Doherty.
fabulous.
Superb stuff. It's a pity that we're not actually watching him spin around though in this replay, because watching him slow motion pirouette would be fantastic. I mean, there isn't. It's not like we're short of footage.
we
Here
go.
we go. Oh no, wait, no, this is actually T1. Sorry, this is his speciality. And the
Just a
hilarious thing is that
reminder,
he is
Peter Pirouette corner.
he is car number 11. So you know, do you think turn 1 would be something he'd be quite fond of? And there we go. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
It's a 10 from the judges.
Yeah, it's just only because it's the 10th time he's done it. Um, so next week, in our updated calendars, actually I say the updated calendar, that's actually the non-updated calendar. So the 21st of January is our final race. We go to Interlagos, a circuit that I flew over in real life only a few weeks ago. So nice to see it on the sim. Oh, I went traveling. And yeah, thank you very much for joining us and putting up with all of our nonsense. I hope we've kept you entertained in the wet in Road Atlanta. Evan, any final thoughts before we sign off for the penultimate time this season?
If you didn't enjoy that, folks, I don't know what's wrong with you. That was cracking. Probably one of the best RTA races that I've seen, purely because it was just chaos. I've enjoyed every second of that. I hope you guys have too. And a big thanks to Motorsport.ie, of course, as always, for sponsoring what went on.
Yeah, massive thanks to Motorsport.ie, Ireland's #1 website for Irish motorsports news. Of course, Neil Lunty's over 25 years experience, covering everything on wheels really across 32 counties, and will continue to do so as we look forward to a very exciting year for Irish motorsport. Alex Dunn, obviously, just recently being named as McLaren Reserve Formula E driver, should I say. So yeah, lots of really exciting things happening in the world of Irish motorsport, and Motorsport.ie is the place to find them. But from us, from Road Atlanta, and for the second last time this season, thank you very much for joining us in the rain. I hope it's been entertaining for you. It's been hella entertaining for us. And I really hope you have a good week. Stay safe and join us again for the final week of the season, where history is set to be made when, as we see Dylan McClemens become the RTA's youngest ever championship winner. But until then, have a great week. From us at Grand 2 TV, for myself, Ronan Hederman behind the cameras, doing great work as always, and my pal Evan Dalton. Slán go fóill.